Color Labs, the $41 million question. In 2012, a photo-sharing app shut down after burning through $41 million in venture capital in less than 2 years. By the time it died, fewer than 100,000 people were actively using it. The co-founder who helped build it had already left. The company that turned down a $200 million acquisition offer from Google was eventually sold off in pieces for somewhere between $2 and $7 million. This is the story of Color Labs, a company that had every advantage and squandered all of them. Bill Nguyen and Peter Pham started Color Labs in Palo Alto in 2010 with a simple idea: a mobile app that let you see photos taken nearby by people in your social network. It was location-based photo sharing, a concept that made sense. They bought the domain color.com in December 2010 for $350,000. They named the company as a tribute to the Apple II's color logo, the computer that had changed Nguyen's life when he was 7 years old. The funding came fast. Sequoia Capital invested $25 million. Bain Capital added $9 million. Silicon Valley Bank provided $7 million in venture debt. In total, $41 million before the product existed. Douglas Leone at Sequoia Capital made his investment decision just 3 days before Color's scheduled launch, suggesting the due diligence was minimal and the momentum was maximum. On March 24, 2011, Color launched in the iOS App Store. Within a week, they released an update because the original interface was confusing. Users didn't understand what the app did. The rating, 2 out of 5 stars. By the time they went public, they had around 1 million downloads. But downloads and users are different metrics. By September 2011, 6 months later, they had fewer than 100,000 active users. In June 2011, co-founder Peter Pham left. Days later, Chief Product Officer DJ Patel followed. In an April 2011 interview with Robert Scoble, Pham and Nguyen admitted something crucial: they had launched without clarity. Pham said it plainly: "We threw a mountain at people. They built the network but forgot to teach anyone how to use it. The product was the problem." By October 2012, the board voted to shut down. By November, it was official. At the end of 2012, Color Labs turned off the servers. Here's what the numbers actually reveal: Color Labs didn't fail because the idea was wrong. It failed because the company mistook capital for validation. Sequoia Capital's Douglas Leone invested 3 days before launch, not after 6 months of market testing, not after user data proved demand, but 3 days before. That's not investing based on evidence. That's investing based on founder pedigree and speed. The real failure happened earlier, in the decision-making that created the confusion. Pham and Nguyen built a feature-rich product in a vacuum. They designed a system to group photos by friends, by nearby location, by feed relevance, and by history of past groups. 4 different ways to organize the same content. They were solving a problem nobody had asked them to solve. They weren't building for users. They were building for the funding thesis, a network that seemed sophisticated enough to justify $41 million. The most telling moment: Google offered $200 million to buy Color before its first launch, according to reports from July 2011. Color rejected it. Why would a company with an unproven product turn down a 5x return on capital? Because Nguyen and Pham believed their own story. They believed they were building the next major social network. They believed the funding proved them right. They didn't believe the market. The $350,000 domain purchase for color.com in December 2010 is worth examining too. Not because $350,000 is excessive, it isn't. But because it represents a specific moment: spending on brand identity before spending on customer feedback. They knew what they were called before they knew if anyone wanted what they were selling. The lesson isn't that venture capital is bad, or that big funding rounds are dangerous, or that photo-sharing apps don't work. Instagram launched 2 months after Color and became worth billions. The lesson is that capital without friction is accelerant, not a solution. When money arrives before skepticism, when domain names are purchased before product market fit is tested, when a board of directors will invest 3 days before launch, you're not building a company. You're building a monument to what the founders believe the market should want. Color Labs had the resources to survive its mistakes longer than most startups. Instead, it used those resources to build bigger mistakes faster. The real autopsy finding: Color Labs died not from a lack of capital, but from an excess of it, capital that removed the pressure to listen.